All right, pilot episode of Childish Adults. Bernard Hankins here with
Jalia, Dillard.
It's our first episode. Jalia said she wanted to do a podcast, so here we are at the bridge. It's 9/10/2023.
Yeah.
So we're actually called the ADULLT-ISH podcast, as Jalia's brought up the flyer. Podcast is about artists talking about, I guess, the sort of intersection of your adult self and your child self. I get literally, as you were a kid and now you're becoming an adult, but also like the inner child, the inner adult. We're talking about not being regular people.
Yeah.
We spell adult. I always spell adult with two L's, adult, because adults are very dull. What else did you think? What do you think this is also about that we discussed, Jalia?
I guess also like the insecurities of a creative adult and fulfilling your creative desires as an adult, despite society's need for people to be STEM majors. I feel like a lot of mine is also like questions. Like I love to ask questions, and I feel like if I don't ask questions, I won't know what I'm doing. And I know a lot of people view that as like lack of self-initiative, I guess that's the word. But it's like, if I don't ask questions, how am I supposed to know that I'm doing it right? So I guess in that sense, I want people to tell me the questions without me having to ask the question. And I feel like people should just be plain and clear with what they want, and then I won't have to ask the question. Because then I feel bad for asking the question. I don't know. This is also the Creative Rehab podcast.
Yes, we're here to rehab the injured child in everybody. Okay, a lot of people have that voice in their head about, like, I'm supposed to be doing this right now, or I'm supposed to have done that, or you shouldn't be working on this. A drama troupe I used to be in, there's this guy who we modeled after Augusta Boal, and he had this thing called the cops in the head. Mm-hmm. So these like self-policing thoughts that you enforce upon yourself when there's a certain thing. So like, I shouldn't be doing art right now. So we all have cops in our head. Most people who grow up in the American education system, it's this inner child starts to get developed, and then somewhere along the way, like Ken Robinson talks about, they say, hey, you're not going to do art. You're not going to make music. Like, why are you doing it? Yeah. So then your adult self starts to take over. And now people's inner adult is so much louder and stronger that the kid always has to shut up. It's like when parents are like, be quiet, put that down. It's like people are doing that inside themselves, I think.
Yeah, like they just won't let themselves be creative because they're scared. Well, they don't see a point to it.
Right.
They were told growing up, like you said, like you can't make money in that. So why are you doing it? Might as well become a STEM major. Then go into tech. When you said you were born with all these gifts, like you were born with that for a reason. You shouldn't just like put it aside because you were born with it for a reason. Like obviously, it's part of your calling because you wouldn't be born with it if not. And I was always told as growing up, if you sing, like you better sing, like use your gift before you lose it. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people from that, like they've lost their ability to be creative because of society.
My TEDx talk in 2015, I was talking about how the UVA basketball team, I think they had just won a championship. Mm-hmm. And I was like, imagine you come to them the next year and say, hey guys, great job winning the championship, but we're going to shut down JPJ, like you guys can't practice there. Yeah. We're just going to put you like in a high school gym, middle school gym actually, but bring the championship again this year. Yeah. I was like, you would not expect someone to be given like facilities that are not adequate for what they need to practice, and still have an expectation they're going to be, national champs. Yeah. So I was playing with the word practical. I said, people say like, art is not practical. I was like, you are correct. Impractical, without practice. Yeah. Like it has been not given a place to be practiced. Yeah. So it is impractical. Yeah. So if you don't give people like the gymnasium of art, so to speak, but you also want me to be like stellar at my performance. So like, tell me how that's supposed to work. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think my high school, we had like art as an elective, like you said, but it was like they categorized art and band, and you needed 3 years of one. I was a band student. I didn't have time to take an art class. And then when I did take an art class, we were drawing shadows. And like there was never any, for like we didn't experience with like pastels or like watercolor, like oil paintings. It was just like, okay, here's some apples, draw them. Make sure you get the shadows. And there was never, no, you couldn't even mention like digital art. Like that was never even thought of. Your music obviously came from band. But like if you wanted to do digital art, sculptures, printmaking, none of like any of that, didn't have it. Poetry, you didn't have it. You wrote whatever your English teacher wanted you to write.
Right.
You can't waste your time, quote unquote, doing it outside of work because then you're not doing your schoolwork.
And the other problem is that the people who are in charge of making the curriculums have no idea what's going on in the classroom, period.
They
but
do
then
not.
Specifically not the creative. So when I was teaching, so an elective class, everyone is allowed to take the elective like music making. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, they're saying, here's a pathway. Take this music class and this music class and this class, and you have it's like, how can it be an elective and a pathway?
Yeah.
It has to be one or the other,
Yeah.
because if you're trying to say that you want to be open to all, fine, have level 1. Everyone can come in this class, see if you like it, and then after that, you got to apply.
Yeah.
This is why I find things deceptive, right? The word path can be deceptive because a path is something that's assumed that's already created. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, there's a path on the Ravenna Trail. Like, go follow it. You'll see the river. Blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, that's cool if there's actually a path that exists.
Yeah.
But if I go there and I don't see anywhere where people have like cleared it, I'm gonna be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So that's what happens to art. People who are interested in art. It's like, hey, you want to be an engineer? Oh yeah, we got this audio production class. You should take it. It's really great. And then the kid's like, oh great, that's cool, man. I want to be an audio engineer. Okay, so how do I get to be an audio engineer? And it's like, well, actually, kid, what we fail to tell you is that we don't know anything about your career. We just have a class.
Yeah.
And when you get out there, you're going to be looking for the audio engineering
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4 Avenue building, and it's not going to be there.
Yep.
So I don't like telling kids like, yo, this is just how you do it. It's like, no, I tell kids like, you're going to have to create a path.
Yeah.
It's like that Robert Frost poem. No, that's like, what is it? There's 2 paths that diverge in the wood. I took the one less traveled. I'm going to do the next Robert Frost version. I created the path in between those other. Like, that's the new poem.
Yeah.
You have to make your own path.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people, like you said, don't talk about that. Like, for example, I was talking about how I want to be a creative director. How do you do that? Like, you can't just automatically apply to creative director because you're a director. It's like you have to have like steps, but there isn't like a creative junior, a creative like a creative start or a creative assistant. Like you have to do you have to start as like production or marketing assistant or something like that. And then a lot of these low jobs don't pay as much right out of the jump, or they're still labeled as internships. And I personally do not want to graduate and start an internship. Like, I need to make money. And it's still, like, in this day and age, a lot of internships aren't paid.
So today at church, the pastor was talking about how another pastor was asking for his help. Like, hey, I have this guy in my church. Like, he's really good. He's, he brings other people to church. He ties. Like, he seems to be like a leader. Mm-hmm. He says, I want to know, do you think it's a good idea? Like, can I bring him on to like a leadership role in the church? And so our pastor said that he responded. He's like, I get it. Like, when you see somebody who's really like a standout person, there's this instant kind of desire to like give them a title. Like, okay, now become something. And he said, but honestly, he's like, if you're really a Christian, like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. He's like, you don't need a title to be sort of validated. So I'm thinking about that mentality when we think about like what you're saying. Mm-hmm. It's like there are people who are naturally good at doing things, and maybe their title doesn't exist yet. Yeah. Right. But all they've ever known is like, oh, I was told that this is path and this is STEM and this is art. Like you're brought into the world where there's boxes that exist, and so then you're like, well, which box do I fit in? Yeah. And it's like you may not. Yeah. Or it may be a combination of the boxes. Yeah. And when you said that, I just envisioned, like the check your ethnicity. Check your ethnicity. Which one do you identify with? It's like other ... Yeah, we should have to fill it in. It'd be a funny skit. We should have like somebody sitting at a call center. Hello, creative services. How can I help you? Oh, you want to be a creative director? Let me plug you to the creator. And then it just plugs into nothing. Yeah. Like route you back to yourself. Hello? Yes, this is you talking to yourself. What do you want to be? Oh, I gotta do the internal work. No, I just want you to tell me what to be. Yeah, just tell me what to do. All right, well, let's talk about you then, since we got you here on the podcast, the real content. So you want to be a creative director. off the bat, like when you think creative director, whether it's based upon what you've heard or what you think you know, like what do you think that means even?
I want to manage like, well, obviously in like the advertising and like production wise, but in the lifestyle, beauty, fashion industry. So like whether that be, I guess creative director, if I talk about like a magazine, like it's like a magazine, I want to have like the creative vision. I don't know.
Okay, I'll ask a different question.
I want to creatively direct.
I want to creatively direct. This sounds so generic, I have to tell you.
I know what my day-to-day would look like. Like I want to do like social media. I want to be heavily involved in social media. And also like I'm doing a lot of research in influencer marketing. And I know marketing and influencer marketing and like public relations is different. So like I guess I want to do both of those.
Well, I guess, okay, let's think about the term director, right? Like, in film, a director is, I guess you could say, like the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
Like, hey, someone wrote a script, this person's working on the music, this person's doing the visual effects, this person's casting. Like, the director is in charge in some sense of saying, like, hey, I got to make sure, like, all these pieces come together in a way that serves the story. You know, it's like,
I guess, like, the editor-in-chief of the creative aspect of it.
So would you see yourself being like before it gets to the director, you're kind of like filtering out some stuff to then say like, hey.
Kind of, yeah. Like, I don't know if I think obviously I'd probably want to work myself up to be like the final say. But I feel like now, like in my love for asking, and well, not even love, need to ask questions, I'm gonna need guidance. I would rather like be the person that maybe like approve the content calendars, approve the scheduling of the content that's going to be produced, whether I'm like, I guess I would start out making the content, but again, I would be approving it to send to the higher up to publish it. You see what I'm saying?
Would you see yourself also casting the vision for people to follow through, or are you more like holding people accountable to the vision?
I feel like I would want to cast the vision, but I feel like I would be more comfortable getting people to uphold the vision. Because I can point out an aesthetic and stick with an aesthetic.
Right.
I don't know if I can choose the aesthetic for someone to go with.
Okay.
Because then again, I need guidance. I need questions. I would rather someone lay this out for me and then I tell other people what to do.
So are you good? Do you feel like you're good at critiquing?
Possibly.
In a pitch meeting, someone comes with a movie idea. Are you more excited to like shape the idea, or would you say like, nah, I gotta totally something better than what you pitched? Like that's cool, but actually we should do this.
I feel like I would rather shape the idea. I don't want to like minimize someone else's idea.
Right.
So I feel like I'd be like, well, how about if we add or like change this, or like ask them like, what do you think it would do if we change this from this? Like, would that go against your entire thing, or would that help it? Like stuff like that.
So I guess my other question is like, would you want to be a creative director, or is it that you're more interested in giving creative direction?
That's a good question. I would say creative direction.
Okay.
So maybe not creative director. Maybe eventually, I feel like I would have to have a lot of experience and like a lot of teachings from higher ups to kind of guide me in that way. But I don't think I could. I mean, it's no way I could go into creative director.
Okay, here's what I like to talk about too. Okay, so particularly for creative people, I think you always have to have your healthy individual creative life. Mm-hmm. You know, because if you work for a job, even if it's creative, it's not you. Yeah. In a sense, it's, say like you had Jalia's like blog, and you were doing like social media, and like this is the life of Jalia. Like if you had that going, and you were able to like consistently put up content and it was fun, like would you consider that like a director kind of level? Because like, hey, I'm in charge of this, and also I get to give direction over here. Or is there still something appealing about like, I want to be someone who's known and like respected, like in an industry? I want people to like come to me and I want them to respect my opinion. I
feel like it's that, not so much as I want to be known, but like I just want. Like, I would want people who want to be in my position to come ask me how I got there. And I would want to be more open to people, because I know now that I'm in the position where I need to be asking people how they got there, it's kind of intimidating on this side to reach out to these people. So, like, I want to be the person, I guess, possibly even go, like, tell people, or, like, connect with, like, college, career centers, and like help the student, like be a resource for students. Like I want to be a resource for people to reach out to.
Okay, so here's a different question. So what you just described, do you think you would be fulfilled as like almost like, I mean, what I do, creative coach, mentor, like...
I don't think so. I don't think I could mentor people creatively because I don't know. Well, now I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, because you said you want to tell people what it's like on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's like that to me says like mentorship of something. Like, so what would you describe that as then if it's not mentor? Like,
well, then I guess it would be mentor, yeah. I guess it would be. I don't know.
So I have this thing I come up with what I call like lowercase a artist and then capital A artist.
Mm-hmm.
So lowercase a artist, I would say, is someone who sees art as like an outlet. Maybe it's like, oh, I do that to just get some mental health stuff off my chest. Maybe you get together with your friends every now and the weekend, make a silly video. Oh, that was fun. But you don't necessarily crave it or think about it that often.
Yeah.
Like you maybe come to it every now and then. It's kind of like a functional thing.
Yeah.
I would say the capital A artist is like, I am art. Like I have to do this. Like I hunger for it every day. And not only that, like I really have a desire to do it to like a rigorous, excellent level. Mm-hmm. And I also desire to, I think I thought of, this is a recent thing I added, like I want to be like an important voice in the world.
Yeah.
And I have something to say. And since I have something to say, I have to do it with like a level of high excellence. So like, which of those two do you think you kind of magnetize towards?
You might can add a little half.
Okay, let's see the half. In between A, middle A.
Like, what would you call someone, like, okay, I know I want to work in the creative industry, but for me, I guess it's hard to view, like, the art that I want to create is, like, graphics and, like, editorials.
Right.
So it's like, I know that I have to work in that type of industry. I have to work around artistic people to be creatively fulfilled. Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily that it's not a mental thing. I mean, I guess it is a mental thing because I know that this is what I want to do. This is the industry that I want to be in. But it's also like, I guess capital A. Like I have to be in the art industry to have a nice life mentally and physically.
Okay. So I always ask people like, what is it about the thing that you're attracted to? Because when you look at it broadly, it's just like art, yay. But then when you really hone in, it's like, oh, I like artful things, or I like art people even, some people, maybe they like to be around art. Yeah. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make art, but so like, I guess like you said, that's good. You said your mental health is like, I have to be in this, like.
I have to be around art.
You have to be around
artistic people. I have to be, because, so growing up, I wanted to do fashion. That was the only thing I wanted to do. I wanted to be a stylist, and then it went from stylist to like, it was never designer because I knew that I could do that. But like, I was like, I can put an outfit together. Right. And then I was like going through all the different careers in fashion. And then I was like, well, I can just do marketing and then like market that. So I guess as I started watching more about art, it became kind of like my thesis is Savage X Fenty. Just like watching the music video, watching the fashion show and how she combined choreography and fashion and visuals into a fashion show. I guess I just wanted to be involved in something like that. I just want to be involved in art, but on the business side, because I know that, and it's not even like a self-doubt thing. I just know that compared to other people, I'm not an artist,
Okay. So here's a great quote. I can't remember where I saw this quote because I always want to give credit. It said, everyone who is an artist is by default creative. Yeah. It said, but everyone who is creative is not necessarily an artist.
So I identify with that one.
You like that one? Yeah. But I think that's really good because I think, artists, there's like the creative arts, it's like dance, painting, photography, film, et cetera, et cetera. But then like creativity means like gardening, entrepreneurship, art, people, community, like creativity is everything. Yeah. Would you see like drawing and things as more like outlets or like this is fun or like tools even? Like for me now, videography and filmmaking, I'm not like the best filmmaker. Yeah. Compared to some people, they see me as like, oh, you really know how to edit and shoot. Like, I got the basic tools. I got the basics, But like when I look at other filmmakers, like, no, you are like Christopher Nolan. Like, you are a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a video. I call what they do film. I call what I do video. Like,
Yeah.
So like, do you see like the sort of like tools you're using as maybe more like, I do this for personal or in the business? Like, it can get to a certain point to like get a point. Like, how do you see?
I feel like it can get to a certain, like, I can get a point across.
Right.
I can make do, but I can't succeed in the long run in these tools. I guess, yeah, but I do view them as like outlets, I would say. So like, if I'm bored or like if I haven't done anything in a while, I'll like paint something, or like I'll make a collage out of something. But now it's more digital because most of my art now is digital. But then I guess it also comes into like portfolios. It's like my creative portfolios are like social media posts, and I don't really view those as graphic, just like digital art, which it is. But it's like,
well, that's what I wanted to get at. Like I said, the difference between artist who's creative versus creative who's not an artist.
Yeah.
Like, do you consider what you do with social media a creative work of sorts?
I view it as creative because like you have to have an eye for certain things. Like, I'll be able to tell if something's two different fonts, even if they're very close. And like aesthetically, I'll make it match. I'll make it look nice.
Right.
But like, I never view them. Like, I would never say I'm a graphic designer.
Okay.
Even if I can make like editorials for VMag or like social media posts. In my head, I don't view that as graphic design.
Okay.
Even if you look up like these magazine articles, these magazine covers, that's graphic design. But I just don't view social media as graphic design, even though it low-key is. Like, it is. I just don't. I remember I took like it's like you need certain requirements to take higher classes at UVA. And I took this drawing one class, and I was trying to plead to her, like, I'm not a bad artist. I just don't know how to draw abstract. I like realism.
Right.
And she was just like, well, maybe you should just stick to it. I was like, but I just need to pass this class. So it was quite bad, but like
That's quite bad.
It was quite bad, but like I just view, I don't know. I guess it also comes in like what you said, like you can see what you do and then realistically what other people do, and it's like, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask is because it's like, okay, social media, maybe it's not artful expression in the traditional sense of the word that you're saying. Mm-hmm. And then even like, I mean, it is creative. I mean, even on basis since you're creating something. Yeah. But I know what you're saying, like people's idea of like what is creative.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is like, do you think you could redefine for yourself what it means to be creative? And would that help you kind of think differently about what you do? Like if you could see the social media thing is a creative expression or whatever, like do you think that would change how you feel more confident in it or less confident? It
would change how I like more confident about it, because I feel like it all just comes down to creating your portfolio. So like when I was putting like pictures in, I was like, well, what graphic is like, what have I done? Like I'm concentrating in new media, but what is new media? Like I know it's like using technology to form, so like Photoshop, Adobe software and stuff like that. But that could be like film, it could be other things. So when I was putting stuff in the portfolio, I was like, I'm just pulling off flyers that I've made. And it's like, I don't want to belittle that, but it's like, and it is, like I said, low-key graphic design, but like it just doesn't look.
That's what you should call it, low-key graphic design.
Low-key graphic design.
Not high-key, low-key, mid-key.
Maybe it's graphic design.
What do you say? This is the question I always ask people, like the day in their life. It's like, okay, when I come to Jalia, I know Jalia gives me boom that no one else can give me. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll give you my example. This is why my friend Pro, who's a rapper in DC, talks about it. He's like, I can play basketball, but am I going to the NBA? No. He actually speaks like at these Celtics things though. Yeah. He's like, here's what I can do. Because I can rap super well and write well. I can do math like nobody's business. He's like, I've just instantly like put myself in a category that not a lot of people can touch. Yeah. Because who can say those two things? Like I'm a math professor and I teach quantum mechanics and stuff. And I rap really, dope. Yeah. So the question kind of goes to like, if you were to think about like the different threads of who you are, and that's what a lot of the booklet is about. It's like, what are like things that you bring together where it's like, oh yeah, Jalia, she's like the only person who takes this and like brings them together.
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know. And I feel like most of it is because, like we were talking about, my school didn't really like. I spent most of my high school thinking I was going to be a neuroscientist. Where'd that come? I was watching Grey's Anatomy. That's where that came from. But like, so like it wasn't until second year that I was like, oh, maybe I can do something in like art and marketing and stuff like that. But I guess I don't know. I really don't know.
All right, let's talk. Let's start. We got social media, and it doesn't have to just be like skills. I mean, like literally, I think people disregard the parts of themselves that are like super interesting, that make them different. Like if you're good with people, like I'm not a person who greets people. It's like if you can do that, like that's a gift. And if you can like say, yo, not only does a person like do social media, like when I come into her like office, I feel super welcome. Like that could be a huge thing that sets you apart. Like that person, they mean, you know, or they just don't make me feel well. Like it's a part of who you are. Like everything is an asset. I used to turn like random trash into decorations. Like I made like this jewelry organizer out of a Starbucks bottle and a fake plant from Dollar Tree. All right, what else?
I don't know. I'm really into like interest too. Yeah,
interest. Talents, talents, interest.
I know. Interest is like YouTubers and like influencer life, marketing, influencer marketing. Really, what talents do I have? I guess I can sing a little bit.
Right. Obviously, like every talent is not going to find its way to the top. You know, it's just to me though, it's cool to know like all of these things feed one another. So even if you can sing a little bit, that tells me you know stuff about tone and pitch. And like you know,
that's another one of my things. I can pick up a key very easily, and also in music, like when listening to music, I can tell like I don't really know what it's called. Like if you listen
perfect
to
pitch.
like perfect pitch. And like when you can hear like when something changes or like a key. I guess perfect pitch.
You know, perfect pitch. Not a lot of people have that. That's like a huge thing of you know Charlie Puth. That's like his thing.
I'm a big lyric person.
But you're like
I like listening to the lyrics of the song more than like the lyrics of the song actually make the song, and then you know what I'm saying. Like I'm more likely to like a song based on the lyrics than the music.
So I would say like analyzer.
Yeah, you can do that. I'm a big reader.
So under interest, reader. What kind of books? Fiction, non-fiction, romance.
Fiction. I have a good visual eye. What's it called? Like aesthetics. I know how to pick up one, I guess.
Starting to see the themes.
What is it? Let me know.
Let me know. I'm here, I'm doing all the work you're supposed to be doing for yourself. Well, okay, for instance, like the fact that you can pick out a key or a harmony, that's like audible color, right? So now you're talking about aesthetics. Like so it seems like you have a gift to like distinction. Like I can distinguish between this color and this color. Or like analyzing the lyric, like, oh, this word should be replaced. So there's something there with like being able to look at something and like. You're teaching me so much about myself. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna write this down. This is my talent. My gift is helping other people find their gift. From a pure artistic standpoint, I mean, it seems like you have some gifts that are. I mean, it's the introvert thing too. Like, you know, we like detail, we like zooming in on things. So you have this ability to like grab a part of something and analyze it or compare it to the whole or notice when something's off. Like I'm like that too. Like I can hear it's like, yo, that note, like literally like I'll have like so much going on in my computer. I'm like, some note is off. Like 50 layers. I'm like, there's some note off. Okay, boom. Like one color, that red is a little bit oranger than the rest of them. Right. See, that's why I think it's cool to know the different parts. How long did you sing? Did you sing in the church choir a lot? Like how long? Since I could. Okay. My mom, she sings, so like in the children's choir. I guess I'm still in the youth choir, but like I was in the choir from. I guess I started like when I could, like I said. Like okay, here's the question: when you were in choir, practice, rehearsals, etc., did you ever find yourself telling even the adults like, "Hey, this is off," or this? Yes, and it really came in because in high school I did theater, and the girl who did, because it was mostly musicals, the woman who taught us. She kind of brought my attention to the different keys and stuff. We already had like altos, tenors, sopranos, and stuff like that. But then once I went from hearing how good it sounded, it kind of brought to my attention how bad we sounded. And I would end up telling them like, hey, maybe you shouldn't
do that, and then they would be like I would have to help this other dude find his key. Like, I'm not even a tenor singer, but here I am trying to like knock my voice down to try to get you to find your key.
Like a mediator.
Yeah.
Facilitator. I mean, obviously everybody has to do their own work, so you have to like. I'll just throw this out there though. Mm-hmm. But one thing I just thought about is like, if I was Jalia, what I would tell other people about myself is like, look, someone's ability to like come into a room and like tell people like this is what you're missing. Mm-hmm. Like that's how I would sell myself if I was like, I'm Jalia, I'm here to tell you what's missing. Like, see this layout? Yeah. This is why they are like trending over here because you didn't pay attention to this little boom. Like that's what introverts are really good at, is like picking up on the patterns and the unseen that people just glossing over.
Now that you're saying this, and now that list is made, I'm like, okay, actually, I do kind of know. But that also falls into when you said director or direction. Like you said, I feel like creatively I would be comfortable with telling people how to adhere to one aesthetic. Like how, like this is what the director wants. That doesn't fit, but this does. This could fit if you did this. I could do that.
I mean, like you did musically. Like this isn't fitting. It's almost like you are the, well, I guess the word I already wrote, mediator.
Yeah.
You're a mediator. Like you're never like forcing people to do stuff, but you're like drawing the attention of like, hey guys, like this is what it is. I mean, we said we wanted to do X.
Yeah.
And I'm just holding up both things. Does this look like X?
Yeah. Because I remember I was having a conversation with my friend and I was like, well, have you ever thought that maybe blah, blah, blah? And like, I knew what it was, but I wanted her to make that connection.
Exactly.
Why did I not know this? Why did I not know this about myself? I guess lists do work, yeah.
I mean, I think you do know this about yourself. There's a difference of like when you like visualize it and...
But it's also, I feel like a lot of that stuff doesn't really like, I mean, I guess they're characteristics, but like you never think of those characteristics when you think of like, what characteristics of myself can I use to help me find what I want to do? Mm-hmm. Like no one ever says, well, you need to look inside yourself to see what you want to do. It's always like, well, what are you good at? But it's like, I can be good at creative things, but like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do creatively?
Well, you have found the person whose number one message is look inside yourself, and literally this is your assets. Yeah. Because I'm just like, this is what God has placed in us. Like, why would I go over here when it's right? It's like someone getting an inheritance. It's like, well, I'm gonna go make some money. It's like, no, somebody just gave you.
They just gave you
$1 million.
What are you making money for?
So, but it's not about taking the things always literally and saying I'm going to use singing in my career in the direct way, but it's like I am a singer, and as a singer I've been trained to detect key differences and work with like choirs. You're too sharp. Like you have that ability in you audibly, and you see it coming out even visually. You're like, man, I notice when this is off.
Okay, so what would you, for creative direction, what would that LinkedIn Indeed job title be called?
I mean, I think we kind of hit on it with this. Like, there's something about mediation. Like, you're like, okay, I'm trying to think of a day in life. All right, so creative director comes in. All right, Jalia, like, we have these spreads for the layout. You know, we're a big magazine. We got all these deadlines. So you're like next in charge, maybe. I need you to make sure the graphic department, the music department, the whatever departments, they're all on board.
So I guess you'd be like a strategist.
All right, let's write that down. Strategist. Okay, I'll throw this out. Tell me how this hits you too. Because I think we're all been taught in this country to be like director, lead, role. Like we all want to be in charge. But what I've come to realize is like the introvert usually is not the...
I don't want to be in charge.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like when I worked at Albemarle, like people would look at the person who was the face of the organization, and I would feel slighted sometimes. And then I started realizing like he was catching the heat too. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, go to him. Yeah. Let me just be underground, shadow. Yeah. Like I'm doing what I do. I'm free. I'm not having to deal with all the headaches. Yeah. So I realized like your second in charge is actually kind of dope. Yeah. Because you really get to do what you do best. Yeah. And you're not dealing with all the face, being the face of the organization nonsense. So what I was thinking is like, could you position yourself as like someone who serves someone else and makes them feel like, yo, that's what I need.
Yeah. So would it be like coordinator?
Coordinator. So I was trying to say like something that gives off the assistant kind of vibe. Yeah. Like,
but then it's like, I feel like assistant also has like a negative connotation. Like
that's what I was saying. Assistant, the idea is there, but not like that word. Yeah. So like,
I feel like it's like, for example, TJ Maxx. There was the store manager and then there was the assistant managers.
Right.
They had like, it wasn't like assistant like, oh, bring me coffee.
Right.
Or print these. It was like assistant like, she was a store manager. She was the one that had like direct contact to like HR and like all of the other stuff. But like the assistant managers, one of them was like floor, like she handled like infield, one handled scheduling the job. I mean scheduling, like scheduling, and then the other is handled other things.
I mean, the first word is it's not assistant, but like support strategist.
Well,
you are the go-between.
This job listing, whatever, it's called creative strategist. And it says, your role is to lead all of our influencer campaigns from the creative side, work with internal teams, clients, and external vendors. So it's like the strategist is, it sounds like it's the second in command to lead the creative direction.
Okay. I mean, that sounds pretty good. It has creative in the title, it has strategist. Let's think about the difference between the word direction and strategy, or director and strategy. I find that people like us, we tend to not just ask the why, but the how. Yeah. Someone has a thing they throw out, and I'm like, okay, cool, but have you thought about this, and this, like big picture too? It's like, have you thought about it? And it's like, no, I didn't even think of it. It's like, exactly, that's why I'm here. Yeah. Strategist, I mean, I love visionary as a title, but visionary, it seems like the creative director is more like the vision. Yeah. And then
the strategist is kind of like how to uphold the vision.
How to like execute. Yeah. And then like the people or the teams are actually executing it. Yeah. Because the director can't be everywhere at once. Yeah, yeah. They're holding all this stuff together, like, man, I gotta deal with this. So they need someone to help mitigate, like, man, I need like Jalia to come in here and, what's the word?
This is like us.
Yeah,
we're coordinating.
Yeah. The word I just thought of is liaison.
Okay, yeah.
Creative liaison.
Yeah. That's my job title.
I kind of like it, creative liaison. Because the thing is, it's like, you don't want to say you're an assistant, because assistant has a negative connotation. But what you're saying is like, you have so much to do, madam, sir. Mm-hmm. I know you got a lot on your plate, and you're trying to make sure this thing's coming out the way it is. Let me be the go-between, the liaison, to like make sure things are on track when you can't be there, or to keep things on track while I'm going. So it's like it's this interesting like movement. It's like the director is like moving forward, and you're like moving vertical, like you're like trying to keep everything.
Like just trying to like the goalie.
Yeah.
Guy, blocked everybody else from the creative, the bodyguard. The mental
creative bodyguard. Yeah. You should put that up there.
I guess if you want to do like football terms, it'd be like safety.
Creative safety.
Yeah.
That's funny. But it's like, because the ship is moving forward, and the director's like, well, think about it. It's like, I would say if I was a creative director, not that I'm never hands-on, it's like, you really are stronger at vision as a visionary. It's like, man, I'm not gonna be in the wood shop. Yeah. Like, I might visit once just to like see it, but I'm at home thinking about the storyboards and this line of dialogue didn't make sense, and now I gotta rewrite this, and ooh, this has to be in the music. Yeah. Like you really gonna like be in your head. So you're kind of like in your head, but you're also like somewhat executing for the director on their behalf.
Yeah. This is also key to being able to like understand their
It's very interesting. Like this book I read by Dorothy Sayers. It's called The Mind of the Maker, and she compares the Trinity to the creative process. Yeah. And she's like, there's the Father who's like the uncontainable vision. Then there's like the Son who is like the execution. Yeah. And then like the Holy Spirit. She's like, the Father is like the vision, the picture. The Son is like a snapshot, so you can kind of get a grasp. And then like the Holy Spirit kind of executes. So it's very interesting. Like somewhere in between, you're like, hey, I don't have the vision, but I like bring a part of the vision to people. I'm not doing the work, but sometimes I might jump in there and, hey, don't bother him with this.
Yeah. Just kind of like, I don't have the vision. I didn't come up with the vision, but I understand the vision. And I know how to help you understand the vision.
You carry the vision.
Yeah.
You carry the torch.
Yeah.
The vision defender.
The vision defender.
I mean, some of these words may not go in the title, but you could say like, you just might be how you explain like, this is what I want. It's like, I am the one who like understands right hand of the director, and I want to like protect the vision to make sure it is communicated accurately and timely to the teams,
Yeah.
and also to go from the teams back to the director to like report grievances or miscommunication.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I want to do.
Glad we figured it out all right now. I mean, other than choir, have you found yourself in any of these kind of contexts before where you're like, I kind of was the person mitigating between a person or groups of people?
When I did theater, she wanted to teach like the upperclassmen the dances, and then we went and taught the younger people because the grades was 3rd and up. So like we were the ones. She was like, I don't really have time to be teaching these 3rd graders. So like I'm gonna teach y'all upperclassmen, and then y'all go teach them. But it's also like again TJ Maxx. There was this one person who, if she wasn't there, the store would actually go down. Working with her and then not having her there for a couple weeks, there was a big difference in how the store looked. Like, and she would always say like how she liked that she could say something and I automatically know what she's talking about. So like when it comes to how she wants the four-ways to look, I automatically knew what she would like. So when she wasn't there, there was this run of clothes. It was too tight because they had, for some reason, they decided to shrink the dresses from like a 10-foot to a 5-foot, even though it was already packed in the 10-foot. So I was like, we need to add more space. So I added another like middle part, but it was too long, so it was in the middle of the aisle. And I was like, that's not right. We're gonna need to move this end cap, like this 4-way, because it's too long and it's literally in the middle of the aisle. They're like, no, I think it's okay. The day she came back, that was one of the first things she fixed. And I was like, I knew it, and I told her, I was like, I knew it was wrong, and I asked them, and they said that it would have been okay.
Yep.
And
it's gotta be cute.
It's gotta be cute. It's gotta
it's
be
your tagline. It's gotta be cute.
It's gotta be cute.
Well, I'm sure you're gonna get to this next year when you have to write all these resumes.
I'm doing that now.
Speaking of the intuitive, again, I don't know if this is right, but this is where what I have a sense of is that people want to know, like, how can you lighten my load?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how can you lighten my load and multiply my time?
Yeah.
Especially if I'm the director. Like, I need that the most.
Yeah.
Right? So if I was, like, creative strategist or whatever you call it, it's like, hey, my job is to interface with you as a director to, like, make your job easier by, like, dealing with the things that I know that I'm anticipating you're going to want to do anyway, like you're just saying. 2, it's like I'm initiating, that's the other word I heard, like I'm initiating stuff that I have a sense that you're going to want by, spending time when you know, and I've studied your work, or I see how you operate, so I pick up on patterns and I observe like what you want, like so I'm going to do the next most common sense thing by continue what you have already started, continue the vision you've started. Like you can trust me because I observe and I listen versus like I need to be told what to do. And I think we all resonate with it. Like, why does so many people need to be told what to do? Like, can't you just see that? Like, as far as thinking about, you ever watch Ray, the movie with Jamie Foxx?
No, I did not know, but I know what you're talking about.
There's a good scene though where like Ray is playing, he's doing his ballad, and like everybody's like, play, this other song. So then this guy who's just running, he works at the theater. He says, hey Johnny, he said, on my count, like bring down the lights. So the lights go down in the house and everybody has to be quiet. So then afterwards, Ray's like, who's all the counting you was doing? He's like, I was counting down the house lights so you could sing your ballad and not have to shout at the audience. And Ray was like, who told you to do that? He said, no one told me to do it, just needed to be done. And he's like, that's what I like. Not somebody who says that ain't my job. He said, somebody said it just needed to be done. So people like that are like, they're just like, just do it.
Common sense, like just do it.
Just do it. So I think if you could maybe present yourself as like that, like, hey, I'm a person who sees things that need to be done, and I initiate on them without being told. Like I know how to take direction, but I'm not waiting for like the things which I know should already be done and ready for you. I think that would be like a strong way to position your
creative strategist, creative bodyguard.
Because the thing about everybody's always like asking, like, I want this job, I need this, like I'm looking for this, like, but if you like position yourself as like, I'm here to serve, and my talents that I have as like choir and like theater, I've worked with groups of people and learning how to like bring this from the director to the people who need it and then communicate back to the director, and then like add on top of that like I'm very good at picking up on what has already been done, the distinctions that are, you know, that are missing.
Yeah.
So I can better communicate to you what the people they're doing and what you're doing to them. That could be cool.
Yeah, I think it would be cool.
No, you're gonna do it. I know you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Let's hope so.
I
think it'll be great.
I don't expect greatness from people, so
I think it'll be great.
I mean, think about how happy you would be just like doing this.
I would, but now most of it's like my blockers in my head saying, yeah. And like I was talking about reaching out like on LinkedIn to people. I feel like, why would they want to talk to me? And it makes no sense, but it's like, why would, in my head it's like, I don't want them to, they're probably like, yeah, she's not. It's like mental obstacles to get over.
Yeah.
And then I'll be okay. Once I jump that little hurdle, I'll be okay.
I'm telling. I know. I think everything in life is a leap of faith. I don't think there's any. You ever listen to Jackie Hill Perry? You know who she is?
She sounds familiar.
Rapper and also speaker. But she was doing this on Instagram. She's like, a lot of y'all out here trying to live life like independent of God. She says, I'm gonna tell you, there's nothing in the life that God will ever want you to do independent of Him.
Yeah.
So you like working yourself out of what needs to be done, because whatever you're trying to do, He's trying to make sure you know that you need Him to do.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that's scary to a lot of people. I thought about that because I don't think there's anything in life that doesn't, anything that's worth anything, it doesn't require a leap of faith of some kind.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, I just started showing up here.
Yeah.
One, because I just had to get out the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like when I do things like that, when I just go with my intuition, I was like, I'm supposed to be here, it's like, it just works out. Like, I don't have to try.
Yeah, and that's also when I turned in my 2 weeks notice, my parents were still like, why did you do that? I'm like, well, I just felt, yes, it's safe, but it's like, I don't want that to hold me back, because I know that I don't want to work in that industry. But also, like, reaching out. Like, Jay came to speak to my class. I think I told you about that. And then I received an email saying he was looking for someone. It's like, well, why not? Turns out I probably was the only one that said, why not? So I was just like, hey, I would like to know more. Next thing you know, he was calling me, and here I went. Here I am.
Here I am, Lord, send me.
Yeah. That's it. I even think about that with my major. I was scrolling on Instagram, and I seen someone was majoring in arts administration, marketing, and costume. I think it was like costume. I was like, hey, how'd you do that? Because I wanted to do marketing, but I also wanted to do arts business. So I was like, how'd you do that? And she sent me to George Sampson. That little interaction changed my whole like view of college. Because I would have been media studies? What is that? Like where would that?
I mean, what I think is interesting is like, I think people who don't even believe in God, like when they do with their talents, the talents that are in them, I think God's like, yep. That's what I put in you to do, and I'm going to honor, like, even if He's like, you don't even believe in me, you don't even care about me, I honor, like, the gift I gave you.
Yeah.
So I think when people just say, I'm going to Hollywood, and I'm going to have to figure out how to act, God's like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop that opportunity.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, people are like, I don't even know how I got this. It's like, it's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. When stuff just fall into place, kind of, you're on the right path. Then I feel like when stuff kind of just, like, roadblock, it's like, okay, maybe look at it a different way. Or maybe another door is going to open that was better for you, yeah.
There's something to be said about intuition, following your gut, following your calling, your talent, whether you believe in spiritual things or not. Like, I think there's something, it's kind of interesting. It's like, I feel like there's like a fairness in the universe where God is like, look, you may never believe in me, you may never call upon my name, but if you like follow just like the pure, like somebody I used to work is like call like the pure mechanics of life.
Yeah.
Like this is my gift. Why would I go like against my gift?
Yeah.
Right? Like I can do things well with my hands. Why would I then choose to be like a math teacher that doesn't do math?
Yeah.
Like it just that's always blown my mind that people like go the opposite direction of what you're. I still don't understand how people believe that.
But I think society has a big.
Well, see, that's why I bring up the question then. Like a lot of times they tell you, oh, you should know whatever company you're working for. So if you're in an interview, you can say, oh, by the way, I see you guys' vision statements, blah, blah, blah. Like, is there a person creatively, director-wise, that you look up to who's like, oh, I would love to work for them?
I don't think there's like a company, like a select companies that I guess I would like to work for. I think Pinterest. I feel like Pinterest would be a nice company to work for. Or even like magazines like The New Yorker Vogue. I just found one, The Cut. Like, I feel like that would be, those magazines like those or companies like those would just be nice to work for. But I guess overall Pinterest. I don't know, I like Pinterest. I've seen people who worked at Pinterest, like their day-to-day, like at the office.
Right.
It was like a nice space to be in, like welcoming and stuff.
Because what you're saying makes me think of, especially when you get in the creative realm, you know, everybody has their own voice, and their own philosophy, and I think a lot of people don't spend enough time developing that voice, and so they just go into a business, and there's questions because they haven't really asked questions ahead of time to then have the answers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if I was working for a creative director, I would yield to them. It's like, hey man, hey woman, like this is your thing, and I'm here to honor and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a strong, like, you know, I know this is your thing, but can I tell you like what I'm seeing happening in the world, blah blah blah? Because I think there has to be some level of like the person is like they don't want you to overstep the boundaries, but they also don't want you being like, hey, like what do you, like if it's like a detail, like literally like, hey, like you sent this, I'm confused. But I think there's some level where it's kind of like, can you study the person before you even apply for the job? It's like, hey man, I've been following. Like I think to me that's what I would, if I was going for this kind of job, I'd be like, hey, like I know you.
Yeah.
Like I don't know you, but like I follow what you do. Like someone you're already passionate about, because then it's easier just to be like I get you.
Yeah.
So like working for you will be easy to a certain regard.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess I'm looking better because you can kind of understand their vision, like you say, and then pick up the patterns.
Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously a relationship is always changing, and you never just want to assume somebody wants the same thing. But there are certain things that people typically always do. Yeah. Because that's what's made them who they are.
Yeah. Like, what's that, Tim Horton, is that his name? The Nightmare Before Christmas. Is that his name?
Oh, you're thinking of Tim Burton.
Yeah.
She said Tim Horton.
His stuff looks like his stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll be like, you should be able to spot that.
Yeah, it's like when people ask me, like, hey, Bernard, you still doing music? I was like, have you not known me long enough to know, like, I am music. Like, this is not like I'm not like a passing phase. Oh, yeah, I used to make beats. No, I literally breathe music.
Yeah.
So, like, if somebody came to me every day and was asking me these asinine questions, I'd be like, I don't want to work for you. Yeah. I don't want you to work for me because you clearly don't understand me.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to do my research there.
And I mean, like, you know, like I'm saying, it's not something you want to be like inauthentic about. Like, oh, by the way, in 1977.